and this session is about Zakat. Zakat on investment funds. However, we shall introduce Zakat a bit in its broader sense and then narrow down to investment funds. What we have prepared for this session is the meaning, brief on the meaning of Zakat, status of Zakat, categories of zakatable wealth, general condition of zakatability, meaning and types of investment funds, and condition for zakat for investment funds, and how to calculate your zakat on an investment fund. As to the first topic, what is zakat? We first need to appreciate that zakah is one of the pillars of Islam, as most Muslims are aware of that. And it is the only pillar in Islam that benefits both the one who performs or who gives zakat, and also the society, the recipients of zakat. As you know, we have different forms of ibadat in Islam, like prayer benefits you only, fasting is for your own benefit, Hajj is for your also own benefit, but zakat is for your benefits, but also it benefits those who receives it. The literal meaning of zakat is an-nama. According to scholars, they say zakat it is a literal meaning means an-nama, which means growth, increase. Arabs can say, or someone can say in Arabic, zakka zurura, as an example, which simply means that his agricultural produce have increased. This is just a literal meaning, but also zakah in its literal meaning also entails at-tathhir, which means purification, to purify. In the Quran, we read, Allah says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى, which, according to scholars, says it takes two connotations, literal and technical. The literal connotation in this verse, according to scholars, it means purification, that successfuls are the ones who purify themselves against sins. And also successful are those who give out zakat in the technical sense. So in Sharia, or in the technical sense, which is our major focus for the session, the technical definitions of zakat, there are many definitions according to scholars, but the one we pick for this session is a right which becomes due in certain types of wealth and is passable to specific categories of recipients. In other words, it is a name for a particular amount of property that must be paid to certain kinds of recipients under the specific conditions. So zakat applies to specific individuals, which we shall see who are they. It is also applicable to specific type of wealth, which we shall see what are they. And it is given to specific kind of people, which we shall also mention a bit about them. Zakat is obligatory. Zakat is wajib to those specific people who have specific kind of wealth and have met certain conditions related to those kind of wealth that they possess. It is a must for them to give zakat. And if they don't give zakat, they are warned of a very severe punishment on what they don't give, as zakat. So in this chapter, Surah At-Tawbah, Allah give a dire warning to those who hoard up gold and silver and do not spend it in the path of God, that they should be given this very terrible news of painful torment on the hereafter. On that day, on that hereafter, whatever they didn't give out, whatever they hoarded in zakat, shall be heated in the fire. Then their foreheads and their sides of their backs will be branded with it, and the angels who will be tormenting them will say, "This is what you hoarded up for yourselves. So test now what you used to hoard up." So this is a very serious warning for all who are eligible to give out zakat, and they don't give out zakat, they are severely warned. But also, those who give zakat, they are given good news that they will receive the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says in one of the chapters, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَةَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ, that my mercy encompass everything. فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا, but I have made it a must to those who fear Allah. فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. I have made it a must to those who fear, who are God conscious, and those who give out zakat. That is a must for them to get my mercy. And some of the scholars of tafsir, they say mercy here means this mercy for muttaqun and for those who give out zakat is Jannah. It is the paradise. Paradise is what is promised to the God-conscious people and those who give out zakat. But we also know in other verses in the Quran, it is a sign of a believer. Person who give out zakat signifies that you have truly believed, because you are getting a portion of your wealth and give it somebody, expecting reward from the Almighty. That truly means you have believed that Allah will reward you. Those who don't believe in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always be very mean, because why should I give you my money? For what? For what benefit do I get? But those who believe, sincerely believed in Allah, will give out the zakat because they know that Allah promised them huge rewards. So zakat has many benefits. For those who give, they will be blessed. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, that وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِبَا لِيَرْبُوا فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ فَلَا يَرْبُوا عِندَ اللَّهِ وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن زَكَاةٍ تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُضْعِفُونَ. That whatever loans that you give people and charge them interest, it doesn't increase before Allah. But whatever you give out in terms of zakat, seeking Allah's reward, it is this kind of giving that you will be rewarded in multiple times. So those who give out zakat, they will receive blessings, they will be rewarded in a big way. Now we move to another important topic. We said that zakat is for specific person and for specific kind of wealth. So what are the kind of wealth that is subject to zakat? According to Ayofi is an accounting auditing organization for Islamic financial institution that issue several standards. And one of these standards is standard number 35, which is on zakat. So we are just making reference to this standard, but of course, zakat is a very well-known topic in the books of fiqh. So they say that zakat is obligatory on gold, silver, currencies, trade articles, livestock, which means camels, cows, and goats, agricultural produce, minerals, and rikas. They also mention real estate investments. At the end of the year, the unexpended income from these assets is to be subject to zakat by adding it to other zakatable assets. So if you are receiving rental income from leasing your apartment or any other landed property, that income that is left unexpended, that is not used, that you saved, in other words, and have stayed for a year, will have to be subjected to zakat. Investment in shares is also subjected to zakat. Investment in bonds and treasury bills, even if they generate interest, they will be subjected to zakat. Investment in sukuk of different types, these are Islamic bonds, just for simplicity, but it has a deeper meaning than that. These are certificates of investments, in other words, but also investment funds in their different forms. Zakat have to be paid on the basis of the underlying assets of the fund. Things that are not zakatable includes wages and salaries or income from free occupations like consultancy at the end of the time of receiving such an income. When you receive your wage or your salary or your paid consultation fee, at the time of receiving it, it's not zakatable. But if you save some of this income, that means it has remained with you for a year under your possession, then, and it has reached the nisab, which you shall see what it is, then that will be subjected to zakat as well. So wages and salaries and income from professional service, they are not zakatable at the time of receiving. But whatever you save and has reached nisab and have stayed for a year, it will be subjected to zakat. Zakat is also not obligatory on fixed assets which generate income. This means if you have a house that you're renting, that house, the value of the house is not subjected to zakat, but the income will be subject to zakat if at all if at all you saved something out of that income and it is stayed for a year. However, there are, of course, some different other opinions on this matter, but we are following here Sharia standard based on IOFI. Some other scholars consider even fixed assets that generate income to be zakatable. Only those fixed assets that do not generate income. Okay, like like a car for your own business use, you are not leasing it, you are using it for your own business or for your own personal needs, and so on. But these scholars consider that if you have an asset that is generating income, like you have a car that you use for Uber business, you have an apartment that you lease, but we shall leave now this view as we are following the Sharia standard of IOFI, and according to the scholars that have endorsed this Sharia standard, fixed assets which generate income are not zakatable. And nevertheless, what remains of the income is what can be subjected to zakat. Also, zakat is not obligatory on charitable waqf khairi. Also on the trusts. Also trusts. As regards to family waqf, these are endowments that has been dedicated to benefit families, what are called waqf ahli. Okay, whatever they receive, this beneficiary, whatever they receive from maybe these endowments, like maybe there was a building set as a waqf, and this building generates income, and this income is given to these specific individuals, the family members of the endower. Then, of course, those who receive this income, whatever they leave without using. That is, if they save any of this income, it will be subjected to zakat if it has reached nisab and stayed for a year. This is according to IOFI, but of course, again, there are different views among scholars with regards to waqf and zakat. General condition for zakatability. For zakat to be wajib to a person, this person has to be a Muslim. So zakat is not imposed to a non-Muslim. It has to be a Muslim. Okay, it doesn't matter if this Muslim is sane or insane. Doesn't matter if he's an adult or a child. This is according to IOFI Sharia standard. So this is the first condition. The second condition is you have a wealth that has reached a nisab. Nisab is a minimum level of wealth that qualifies it to pay zakat if other conditions below are fulfilled. If other conditions below are fulfilled. So different kind of wealth have different kind of nisab. So for case of currencies, gold and silver and the articles of trade, the nisab for them is either gold standard or what we call silver standard. So nisab for gold, if you have a gold, if there is nisab for it is 85 grams of pure gold. If it is silver, the nisab is 595 grams of pure silver. Now, today, these two metals are no longer used as currencies. So scholars using qiyas, they have agreed that our modern currencies, paper money, all kind of paper money, Kenya shillings, US dollar, and whatever other currencies, okay, will be subjected to these nisabs, either gold standard or silver standard, that a believer, a Muslim can choose among these two standard and pay his zakat. So the equivalent of 85 grams of gold, of pure gold, is in Kenya shilling is what you will have to consider. And the equivalent of 595 grams of pure silver is what you will consider. Okay, now if you have now the equivalent of either of these in Kenya shilling, then that means you have met a second condition. Now we look at the third condition. The wealth is fully owned and in possession. Milk tamma, that you own this. Okay, it belongs to you, it was in your possession. It was in your possession. So whatever is not in your possession, like the money that is lying in your NSSF or in your pension fund at your workplace, that you don't have control of it, you don't have any command on it, then that one is not in your possession. That which you have in an investment fund, it is in your possession. Because some people have been asking about this. So I Just want to make it that clear. The money that you put in a bank, it is in your possession because you can go and take it at any time you want and do whatever you want to do with it. The money that you have kept with us with an investment fund, Mansa X Special Sharia Fund, is still in your possession. So possession here doesn't mean physical, that you have it at your home, on your safe boxes or somewhere, but even those which are in the bank's accounts, in the investment funds, okay, these are still in your possession. And they should be in your possession for a period of 1 year. A full year must have passed while they are in your possession. So that's what it means by a fourth condition, that this wealth, that it is in your possession, either physically or constructively, you have it for a year. A year has passed, it is within the nisab or above, it is in your possession, as well as the year has passed while they're in your possession. So those were general conditions for zakat, particularly on currencies and articles of trade. But for the case of livestock, they have their own nisab. For the case of agricultural produce, they have their own nisab. But that is not our subject. Our subject today relates to cash and cash equivalents. This is either you have a cash or you have financial assets, the likes of you have invested in a fund, or you have shares in a company, you have invested in a bond or in a sukuk. These are cash equivalents. That is what we are more focusing on. Now, investment funds, most of you, I believe, know what an investment fund is, but in case you don't, investment funds are pools of money collected from many investors that are used to invest in different financial assets, such as stocks, bonds, or sukuk, or other securities, with the goal of generating profit or making a capital gain. So investment funds allow many people to combine their money together, and the fund is then managed by a professional fund managers who makes decision where to invest it from time to time. There are different kind of investment funds. These are just few examples. We have equity funds, where the fund managers mainly invest in the shares of company that are listed in the capital markets, or sometimes even unquoted or unlisted companies, whether local, international, or regional. Then there are exchange traded funds that you can buy the units, okay, at the exchanges, like normal shares, like the way you buy shares at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And this exchange traded fund can take different forms, can be balanced, it can be equity funds, and so on. Then you have money market funds, invest in short-term financial instruments, like they invest in sukuk or puts in a term deposit in a bank. Then you have real estate investment trust, which mainly invest in real estate properties, such as buildings, apartments, or commercial property to generate rental income, okay, and sometimes they sell them to generate capital gains. Then you have sukuk funds, which invest in sukuk, Islamic bonds. You have commodity funds that invest in commodities, such as precious metals, agricultural produce, etc. And then you can have others like, balanced funds, okay, you name it. In Kenya, we have different kind of funds that invest either in specific financial asset or multiple assets. Now, when it comes to zakat on investment funds, scholars say that there are two ways to calculate zakat on investment funds, the money that has been pulled together. So zakat has to be paid on the basis of the underlying assets. We'll need to look at what are the assets under which the funds have been invested in. Have they been invested in assets that are subject to zakat or in assets that are not subject to zakat? So that is what it means here. We need to look at the underlying assets because some funds could be investing in, for example, properties for purpose of rental income. And you remember I mentioned before that income generating assets, assets that generate rental, they are not obligatory to pay zakat. But if they are investing in buildings for reselling, okay, like most of the real estate developers today in Nairobi, they are mostly investing for reselling. And of course, they retain some units for leasing. But now you'll have to look at the composition of that real estate. How many apartments are for sale? How many are for leasing? And then you have to now determine what percentage is for selling. And this now becomes eligible for zakat because it is considered as articles for trade, as goods for trading. But those apartments which are held for leasing, their value is not considered. Rather, it will be their rental subject to other conditions. So the first view is we need to look at where this fund invests and determine assets that are zakatable and leave out those which are not zakatable. The other view is zakat is based on the intention of the investor in such a fund, particularly exchange-traded funds. For those funds that have been listed in a stock exchange that you are buying, it will depend on the intention of the investor. So if the intention is for you to trade, that I want to buy this unit while it is worthy maybe 200, once it reaches 150, I want to sell it. That means you're holding these units or you're holding this share for purpose of capital gain to trade once you see there is a good margin out of it. So you want to buy low, you want to sell high. So that becomes zakatable, and it will be based on the market value. So even if you haven't sold it yet, but if that is still your intention, each year, every year, you will have to get its market value and calculate zakat out of it. The second method is if the investor holds for long-term investment, okay, again, we'll need to look at the zakatable assets. We'll need to do calculation to find out this exchange-traded funds, what does it invest in? Okay, and again, follow the first option, basically, which is based on the underlying assets. Mansa X Sharia Fund, our fund adopt a multi-asset strategy, which means that we invest in different asset classes. We invest in stocks, halal stocks, we invest in sukuk, we invest in real estate, invest in different asset classes. These are just example of a multi-asset fund, the normal outlook of it. Not necessarily that we might have invested in all of this, but even Mansa X invest in multiple asset classes. So Mansa X Sharia Fund, okay, invest in zakatable assets, mostly tradable securities or with the intention to trade. If those who have looked at our fact sheet of 2025, you will see what we have mentioned as top holdings. And these top holdings are mostly zakatable, the likes of stocks, the likes of exchange traded funds, the likes of sukuk, and also real estate that we are holding is for trading, not for rental income. So we're saying the underlying assets of Mansaq Sharia funds are 100% zakatable assets, 100% zakatable assets. Now, we as a fund manager, we manage these funds on behalf of investors. So we are agents actually under the contract of Wakalatul Istithmar, which means that we act only as an agent. Whatever we get from investor is not our money. So it doesn't belong to us. And you can't pay zakat for money that is not yours. And in this case, fund managers, we possessed them, but on behalf of you, investors. So we don't qualify to pay zakat because they don't belong to us. Okay? The investor remains the owner of these assets. You are the owners of whatever we have invested, and we are holding those assets on your behalf. Therefore, zakat obligation remains on the investor. It is your obligation, unless the fund explicitly pays zakat on your behalf. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have not taken this responsibility, neither have you given us a mandate to do that. Okay, so it remains an investor's responsibility to pay zakat on what you have invested with us. Our Sharia board position is that investors should use the nisab of silver. Remember, we said there were two standards with the two nisabs. There is the nisab of gold, 85 grams, and there is a nisab of silver. Nisab of gold, last time I checked, it is almost 1 million and something. It's higher. As you know, the price of gold is higher compared to the price of silver. So our Sharia board position, and of which some of you might have received the emails, okay, saying that you should pay zakat based on the nisab of silver, which as of this Ramadan, or by the time of we circulate the emails for advising you or reminding you to pay zakat, 595 grams of silver were equivalent to 217,175. This is the amount that if you have this amount invested with us, okay, then it qualifies to pay zakat, but subject to another condition, which is a year. It must stay with us for a year. Now, sometimes, as we know, you might have invested with us just very recently, but this money, you had it in your bank account, in your normal bank account. Okay? So even though you had just invested with us in the past 3 months or 1 month or 6 months, but you know that you had this money for a year, but it was sitting somewhere else, it is still subject to zakat. So when we assist you as an investor to calculate zakat, we are only able to see what you have with us. What you have with us, and also based on how long it has stayed with us. So don't misunderstand that if we say to you that maybe your money have stayed for less than a year, don't think that it might not have stayed in a year under your possession, because as I said, for you, you had this money in your bank account or in your wallet. We don't know for how many years you had you had it. We don't know. What we know is only from the time you invested with us. That's what we know, because we can see the statements when the money was contributed or was paid. That's what we see. So please don't relax if we simply tell you that the money you have with us has not completed a year, so is not zakatable. You have to really go back and ask yourself how long I have stayed or I had this money in my possession. This is very important. Now, the zakat period normally starts when you have the nisab amount, okay? Not when have you invested with us. This is very important. The zakat period, you start counting 12 months from the time when your money had reached a nisab, which in this case, the amount that I mentioned before you, okay? Not from the time that you had invested with us. A simple formula now for those, if you had only this money and you had your zakat period is from the time that you had invested with us and it had stayed for a year, then the simple formula is investment at the market value, that is your initial contribution plus the profit that you have obtained for that particular year times 2.5. An example is your contribution was 1 million, which of course has already reached the nisab as of Sha'ban last year. And until Rajab of this year, when you look at your balance, it has increased to 1.1700,000. I mean 70,000. So in this case, you take the current balance, which is 1,170,000. Since all assets we are holding are zakatable, that means 100% of this amount will be subjected to zakat of 2.5, and your zakat will be 29,250. This is just an example for those who wants to calculate for themselves. So you need to look at when your money had reached a nisab and has it completed a year, and you pay 2.5%. Now, a word of caution here, 2.5% is for those who follow Hijri calendar. If you count your year based on Hijri calendar, Islamic calendar, you pay 2.5. But in case you don't follow Hijri calendar, or as most of us don't even know which month sometimes we are in, then there is a slight different rate that is used according to IOFI Sharia standard. They say if you don't use Islamic calendar, which is of course not advisable, according to our Sharia board, they say that we should use Hijri calendar. Okay, this is ibadah that was based on Hijri calendar, not on the Gregorian calendar or Miladiya. But in case that is what you have used, then the rate changes to 2.577%. So instead of times 2.5 here, you will have to times 2.577% if you follow the Gregorian calendars. Now that brings us to an end of our session, but we know that some of you had already shared with us several questions, and now I will go to those questions which we had received, and if time allows, we shall give you an opportunity to ask either directly or you can post your chat. You can post your question on the chat. So feel free as I go through these questions that we had received for you to post your questions on the chat. But also, we shall provide an opportunity for those who wants to ask directly. Now, the first question that we had received is someone was asking, can I pay Zakat monthly instead of once a year? This can make it easier because I get my fixed deposit returns monthly. The simple answer is no. Zakat becomes obligatory after a year. Okay? And once that year has completed, you need to calculate your zakat and pay immediately. Pay immediately. You don't even pay it monthly. Okay, you are required to pay it immediately. So that is the answer to this, that zakat is not paid monthly, zakat is paid once per year. Okay? And you pay it immediately. Whatever you have as an amount to give as zakat, like for example, in the example before, if this is the amount you're supposed to pay zakat, 29,000, you have to pay it, all of it, okay, immediately, without delays. You can't split that, okay, based on, as you said, looking at your fixed returns, looking at your profit, and then you pay out of it based on what you receive. No, if you don't have other money, actually you are supposed even to break that deposit you have fixed, take out the zakat money, fix again what is remaining, and pay the zakat. But don't wait until you receive your returns on this fixed amount for you to pay zakat. That is not acceptable. That means you are delaying to pay zakat for no justifiable Sharia reason, Sharia grounds. Another question, what happens if I miss paying my zakat for previous years? Can I combine the previous years and pay this year? Number one, you should acknowledge that if you didn't pay zakat for those previous years, that you needed to seek repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was a major sin. That was a bigger sin, and you needed to seek Allah's forgiveness for missing out to pay zakat for those years. As to what you need to do now, yes, you need now to combine those previous years and pay your zakat, because zakat which is unpaid is a debt. And this debt is not a debt of me and you. It's not a human-to-human debt. This is a debt with the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, that you are indebted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on whatever zakat which you haven't paid. It is daynullah. It is the debt that belongs to Almighty, which needs to be paid. And while you pay it, you need to seek Allah to forgive you because you didn't do it at the right time. All those previous years that you didn't pay zakat, now, alhamdulillah, you want to pay zakat, that is good. Pay out what is due and also seek Allah to forgive you for not doing it at the right time. Do I pay zakat on total value of my investment or only on profits? It is on there if you are referring to what you have invested with us, it is in the contribution plus the profits. It is the contribution plus the profits. This is the position, the scholar's position. Someone would normally say, but my profit didn't stay for a full year. Okay? We are saying that in Sharia, in fiqh, the ruling on a profit follows the ruling on the principal. Okay, since the principal amount stayed for a year, whatever that is generated by this principal amount, which is now these profits that are paid either quarterly or, for example, if someone had put his money as a term deposit in a bank and he receives those profit monthly, the ruling doesn't consider the period of which this profit were received, but rather the principal. The principal, as long as it is stayed in your possession for a year, it doesn't matter when the profit came. Okay, so you have to pay the zakat on the investment plus the profit that you received, that you had earned for that period. Do I need to pay zakat if my investment made a loss during the year? Yes, if the loss that was made didn't make your investment to fall below the nisab. So for example, as we said, the nisab is around 217,000. If there was a loss that reduced this investment to 100,000, then yes, in that case, your zakatable wealth is below the nisab. And for that matter, you can't pay zakat. But if you had a million and you got a loss of 100,000 or 200,000, your balance is still above the nisab, you will have to pay zakat on it, on the balance, whatever that is remaining, if it is above the nisab. Let me remind people here that zakat is not like profit, is not like a tax on profit. It's not even a tax. Zakat is a financial worship that is due on the wealth itself that you own. So even if you have money that you haven't invested it to make profit or even to be exposed to losses, as long as it has reached nisab and in your possession for a year, you pay zakat on it. So zakat has no relationship with profit. Profit is something else. Profit adds to the zakat base, but it's not what determines if this cash eligible to pay zakat or not. Does your bank calculate and deduct zakat for investors automatically like in Pakistan, or do I need to calculate and deduct yourself? You have to calculate and deduct yourselves. We don't do that, but we assist. If you struggle in calculating, we can assist. Okay, but you will have to calculate and deduct yourself from either your investment here, or you can use any other cash that you have and pay zakat. If I have money in my DTB, Kenya shilling account, and I also have this investment with months X Shariah in USD, Can I pay my zakat using Kenya shilling fund in my DTB account without withdrawing from my USD investment at SIB? Yes, yes. So what is important is for you to add together when you are calculating your zakat. Check your balances at DTB account, okay? Check your balance at Mansa X Sharia fund. Add these together, you get the total. You calculate zakat on that. Now, where do the money come from paying this zakat? It can come from your account in a bank, can come from your mobile wallet, it can come from your other cash. It doesn't matter. So you can pay from any other cash, okay, that you have with you. And for that matter, without you withdrawing what maybe you have with the Mansa X Sharia. Is zakat payable on shares and stocks? Yes, zakat is payable on shares and stocks. How will this be handled? Now, there are two views on how zakat is paid on shares and stocks. Now, if you have invested in shares and stock at an exchange, at a Nairobi Stock Exchange, for example, the simple way, okay, the simple way is for you to look at the market value of your share. What is the current price of these shares? And if they've reached in nisab, or if the value, when you add it together with your others, with your cash and maybe other zakatable wealth reaches nisab, you pay zakat on it. This is a very simple way. But if you have shares in a private company, then it is different approach. We need to do calculation on the zakatable assets of this company to come to a portion that you are required to pay zakat. Okay, and there are different methods that scholars have suggested on calculating zakat in that particular scenario. If you have shares in a private company, in most cases, you don't know what is the value of those shares. So we need to get to know the value of the share by looking at the assets of the company, which ones are zakatable, which ones are not zakatable. Okay, deduct the zakatable assets from the zakatable or the liabilities that needs to be deducted, and then later on subject it to whether it is above nisab or not nisab, and then coming down. There's a huge work to be done here. If you need assistance, you can get in touch with us. Can I give zakat directly to someone in need? Yes. If you know someone who qualifies, is a maskeen, or is a poor, is a faqir, okay, you can give zakat directly to that person. Okay, there's no problem with that. If I recently started investing in the fund, when does my zakat obligation begins? Well, if you followed me through very well, you will understand that your zakat obligation doesn't begin when you invest this fund with us. It begins from the time when you had these funds, those funds of yours, okay, and have reached nisab. So if I had 1 million in July last year, but this January is when I invested with the fund. So when is your zakat starts, or when is your zakat period begins? It begins from July last year, because that time July you had already funds which is above nisab. Okay, so it begins, zakat period begins at the time when you have money that have reached the nisab. And here I needed to remind people that we needed to track our funds, our wealth regularly to see if it has reached nisab, for us to now taking note that I need now to count from now 12 months moving going forward. It is very, very important. So, but if you had this money January, or this Ramadan is when you had this money, okay, that has reached nisab, and you have invested it, then we'll say that, okay, since the time of possession, the nisab level, and the time of investing all coincided, all happened at the same time, then your zakat, you will start counting from the time you have invested with us. But as a matter of principle, we know people used to have this money, their cash in banks or in mobile wallets. They just put a portion of it or all of it sometime, okay, or within the year, okay. So you really have to be careful here that zakat your zakat period starts at the time when your wealth have reached a nisab. So if you used to save slowly, okay, and then it has reached, for example, this Ramadan, you have checked your balance, it is 217,000 and above. That means your zakat period start this Ramadan. Whether you have invested with us or if it stays in your mobile wallet or in any other bank account, it starts this Ramadan. So if you come and invest with us in Shawwal, okay, it doesn't change the fact that your zakat period started Ramadan. Okay, I hope that clarifies. How do I calculate zakat if I have multiple investment and assets? Well, again, we needed to ask ourselves, what are these investments? What are these assets? Sometimes these assets are zakatable. Sometimes those assets are not zakatables. As I mentioned, we have fixed assets and we have current assets. Okay, we have different kind of assets. So if we assume that these assets are all zakatable, and I repeat, assume, then you will have to combine what qualifies to be combined, and you pay zakat together. So if you have cash, you have stocks, and you have the investment with us, month X, then all these are zakatable, then you will have to combine and pay zakat. And also maybe you have a business as well, okay, which has goods for trading. You will have to add them together and pay zakat for them. But some people have assets which are not zakatable, like, you have a building for rental. Okay, now building for rental, the building itself is not zakatable, but the rental income is subject to zakat if at all it has reached nisab and stayed with you for a year. Kindly explain the difference between zakatul fitri and zakatul mal. Zakatul mal is what we have covered. It is related to wealth, what you have, what you own in specific kind of wealth. Zakatul fitri relates to sawm, to fasting. That every person, every Muslim, okay, who had fasted, and also you have even your kids, okay, or elderly parent who haven't fasted, okay, they have to pay zakatul fitri. You have to pay zakatul fitri, which is normally food, which you give out food, which is 2.5 kg of rice, or the food that is common in your place. This is a consensus. You give out food, okay, and it is paid one day before Ramadan ends, or even 2 days before the end of Ramadan, it can be given, or even after Maghrib. At the end of the Ramadan, Maghrib, we have seen a moon sight of Shawwal. You can pay zakat from that time, zakatul fitri from that time, okay, before Salatu al-Eid, before the prayer of Eid begins. Okay, if you delay to pay your zakatul fitri after Eid prayers, that is not zakatul fitri. That will be considered as just sadaqah. It will be just sadaqah. So zakatul fitri relates to all of us who have fasted, okay, and to our family members, okay. We give zakatul fitri for the number of our family members that we are responsible for, and we give it to the needy people. And even the needy people and the poor people pay zakatul fitri from what they might have received from others. So I'm a poor person. I have received several zakatul fitri from different people. I keep what I need for Al-Eid. Whatever I need for the Eid day, I keep. And whatever is extra, I need also to pay. I need also to give out to others. I hope that clarifies. What happens if my investment has not reached 1 year, but I have savings elsewhere that have qualified? I hope this has automatically been answered by my answers in the previous questions. Okay, but if at all this is the only investment you have with us and it hasn't stayed for a year, then doesn't qualify. But this investment, okay, as I said, you might have had the cash before investing with us. So it is the issue of when did you had this money, okay? And it's not the question of when have you invested, because even the money that you haven't invested is zakatable. For at all, it has reached nisab. I hope uh, this remark plus what I've said earlier would have given you the answer to that. For paying zakat, do I have to withdraw to pay, or I can pay from other sources? Again, this one I had also answered it. We said you can pay from other sources as well. There is no issue. Is my pension eligible for zakat payment? If you consider what you receive monthly, if what you mean here, what you get monthly, what you get monthly is not zakatable, but what you had received as a 1/3 lump sum. Remember, zakat here in Kenya, when somebody retires, is entitled to 1/3 of what you had contributed and whatever profit that was accumulated. You get that as cash. And then the 2/3 is what needs to go to either income drawdown schemes and or you go and handle it to be paid monthly pension. As for the 1/3 you had received, if whatever you had received had reached the nisab, you have to pay zakat for it immediately when you receive it. Immediately when you receive it. It doesn't have to stay for a year after receiving. So as long as what you had received, okay, had reached the nisab, you have to pay immediately 2.5. And then if you have invested it with us and stayed for a year, you will have again to pay zakat for it. Okay, if you have opened a business with it and that business is still worthy above the nisab, you'll have to pay zakat for it. But for monthly pension that you get monthly, that one is not. It's not subject to zakat. Then a common question that we have been receiving is where do I pay my zakat? Okay. Now you can pay zakat directly to the needy and the poor person. However, I know that sometimes people don't investigate. When you give zakat to poor people or needy, you have to be sure that they are needy and poor. And most of us even don't know who is the needy, who is the poor person. Not every beggar is a poor or is the needy. I need to warn you on that. Don't think that every person begging in the masjid is a poor or needy. That is not a qualification. Begging could be a habit, okay, rather than based on needs and struggles. So you really have to know the poor person that this guy, I know him, is jobless, okay, or the other one is sick, cannot work, he had no ways to earn, or somebody you know that he earns, but whatever he earns is really fall short, okay, for what he needs to fulfill, okay, for sure, without any doubt, these are the people you can give. But if you have no time to do all this assessment and be able to determine who is, who doesn't, who is poor, who is needy, and so on, then I advise people to hand this money to either Zakat Kenya. There is Zakat Kenya. You can look at their website, contact them, send you a zakat. They will do the job on your behalf. Or as well, there's Jamia Mosque. If you are here in Nairobi as well, there's a Jamia Masjid here that also receive or collects zakat. Get in touch with them, find the pay bill or the accounts that receives zakat, give it to them, and they will manage it for you. I hope I have answered all that has been shared before. Now, let me go to the chat. Okay, Jamal Ali is asking, can we get our current statement so that we can establish the zakat amount for that? You know, the statement that we issue, brother, are those which had been issued for the end of uh, quarter, quarter four last year. The statements are normally given quarterly. So what should you do? You should simply use the balances in your quarter four. Okay, this is what I would advise because you want to see what is the amount. For the time being, use your quarter four statement to look to calculate your zakat. Because even if we run a statement for you now, it will not show any changes because we haven't distributed any profit for this quarter one 2026. You will not see any change. Take it from me. So just base your zakat from the last statement you had. That is your balance that you currently have. Can you link up with Zakat Kenya and pay on our behalf for the zakat and inform us on a yearly basis? Unfortunately, we cannot do that. We have left this to you as an investors. For the time being, we are not ready to take this task for us to be calculating for you and so on. As I said, we don't want to subject somebody to zakat if he's not supposed to pay zakat. Somebody maybe just received it, okay, his lump sum money, okay, or got his inheritance share and come and invest with us. And suppose that every Ramadan we pay zakat. And he simply started, he got money this Ramadan the first of Ramadan, and suppose we are now calculating this zakat, okay? We are supposed to pay zakat, suppose that we calculate zakat every Ramadan. Okay, most likely that uh, 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 we'll have to run through every statement of every one of you, which is very difficult task. There could be chances of errors. Okay, we might end up taking somebody's zakat amount to pay zakat while he's not supposed to pay zakat because uh, uh, maybe the cash that he had hasn't reached a year, okay, according to or based on the time that he possessed versus the time that we pay zakat. Okay, yeah. So we don't want to get involved in that. It is a big dhimma. We don't want to take that dhimma for the time being. We're not prepared to take. Also, we don't want to end up paying zakat for you based on what you hold with us, and you end up having a thought that you have paid your zakat, while that was just a portion, okay, on your zakatable wealth. It's not the whole of it. Okay, whatever you have with us, you have to add with whatever you have with you, which we don't know. We don't know. Okay, so in as much as we could take from what we have with you, okay, this would make people relax and think that, okay, SIB Najah takes care of zakat for me. So you end up not bothering to consider other kind of wealth that is with you. It is a bit complicated. All we could do is, of course, can assist you. Yes, you wanted to pay zakat, how much to pay. Okay, we can have a call. You can visit us. We can interrogate you. Okay, and be able to establish how much you should pay, and you pay. You pay your zakat either directly to those you know deserves, or you give it to Zakat Kenya or any other institution that collects the cut, and you trust that they are trusted people qualified to handle your zakat. Yeah, the slides will be shared. How do we pay zakat on our own? Or is it deducted from fixed deposits? I'm not sure if I get your question. Nothing is deducted from your fixed deposits. Okay. Uh, uh, it is you to consider what you have in your fixed deposit and do the calculation, okay? And if you have cash, pay your zakat from what you have. If you don't have cash, all your money is in the fixed deposit, then I'm telling you, go and break that fixed deposit, take the portion that you need to pay zakat, fix again the balance, and fulfill this wajib, fulfill this responsibility of paying zakat. That's what I'm saying here. If you haven't paid in the previous year, will you backdate or just pay current year? To be accurate, you need to establish the level of zakat you had in all those previous years. Why? Because what you had in 2020 in terms of zakatable wealth could be different from what you had in 2021, could be different from what you had in 2022, could be different from what you had in 2023, could be different. Every year you have different amount of zakat wealth. Okay? But if we assume that whatever you had all those past years was the same, then of course it will be times, okay? You will have to calculate the amount you have times those number of years you didn't pay zakat. But we know from the realities that sometimes last year your saving was 1 million. Okay, the other year it might have gone up to 2 million. The other year it might have gone to again 1 million, came down. The other year it goes up. Ideally, for all those years, you needed to establish how much did I had and pay and calculate zakat for that particular year. Another year, how much did I had? Then calculate your zakat for that balance. How much did I had? That's how you should do it. And if it is very complicated, you have to estimate your level. You have to exercise your best effort to estimate how much did you had in those previous years, okay? And calculate zakat on those wealth for those years accordingly. Okay, and as I said, you need to seek repentance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because most likely, if you didn't have records, also for delaying, okay, that was a sinful act. Apart from you paying, you have also to seek Allah's forgiveness. So that's how I can answer it. How do we calculate for zakat in joint accounts? Now, joint accounts sometimes are open between the parents and the child. Sometimes it is between spouses and so on. Okay, there are two views. One view, if it is spouses, okay, one view is you pay zakat as one, irrespective of how much one of you have contributed. This is one view, because you could have maybe 1 million in a joint account, but you know for sure, okay, 70% of that is of your spouse, okay, okay, and yours is only 300. So also sometimes it could be, at least in this first scenario, all of you have above nisab. There is a scenario where it could be 900, 90%, which is 900,000, belongs to one of the spouse, and the other spouse only has 100,000, which is below nisab. Okay, so if this is the case, this latter scenario is the case, it is advisable for you to each to pay zakat separately. And in that regard, only one of the spouse who had 90%, which is 900,000, he should pay zakat, because the other one had an amount which is lesser than nisab. But if all of you have the amount, the balances above nisab, all of you have amount above nisab, just pay zakat as one. But again, if you want to apportion it, everyone to pay his, that's also okay. Okay, if you want, okay, for example, it is 50-50. So this one has a 500K and you have 500K. So you calculate zakat on it. For example, you know that the zakat will be 2.5 of that. Maybe it is 10K. Okay, so if it is 10K, each one will have to pay his own, from his own money. Okay, 5,000, 5,000, from whatever cash you have, that you have it. Or sometimes it could be, let us take from the same million. If you wish, you can also, from that 1 million you have, you take the 10,000 and you give zakat. So that is also okay. Normally, the zakat is paid on households, either by father or husband. If one usually pays, is excluded from the deposits. I don't understand this question. I don't know if you are referring to Zakatul Fitri. Zakatul Fitri is the one that is paid by a father or a husband. Okay. Yeah, that's what, but if you talk about Zakatul Mal, no, Zakatul Mal, everyone who has the wealth that is above Nisab, you pay your Zakat. It's not your father, it's not your husband. If you are a wife, you have your savings that have reached the Nisab, stayed with you for a year, you have to pay Zakat of your own wealth. It has nothing to do with your husband. If you are a child, okay, you are working, mashallah, you have a saving and so on, you have to pay zakat on your wealth, not your father. Father has nothing to do with what you own. Okay, so that's zakatul mal. But zakatul fitri, that's a different thing. Zakatul fitri, yes, it is either a father pays for his child and wife, okay, or it is a husband. who pays for the wife and the children, etc. Explain if a group of people jointly save money on monthly basis. When will their zakat be due? It will depend on when did their savings reach the nisab. So when they're saving monthly, we have to ask them, when did this savings reach the 217,000? When did it reach that level? When? Was it in January? Was it in February? Was it in December? Was it November? Was it, when was it? So that's the question. Okay, that's the question you need to ask yourself. When did your money reached Nisab? And from that date, on that month, now we need to check, we need to look as to whether now, after it has reached Nisab, whether this money stayed in your possession for 12 months. That's how you go about it. Some clients add money to whatever we have invested from when we joined. For example, if one joined and have been investing more different interval, which month do you use to calculate when your year ends? Our advice here is yes, sometimes you need to consider the period that you had reached in a sub. Whatever you have been investing in between here, okay, should not count, okay? You just have to look at when did my money reach the nisab, and look at the end of the year. If the amount is still above the nisab and you pay zakat, regardless of how much other contribution have been coming during the year. Why? Because if you don't do this, that means you need to pay zakat for each of these contribution at their own time, which is very tedious, which is very difficult for most of the people. But if you can, as well and good. Okay, so advice that we give is track your contributions. For example, you had contributed 100K, and then you had contributed 50K. Then you later on contribute another 50K. Then you later contributed another 50K. That means it is 2,050,000. That time when you had reached that is the time now, or that is the month and the date which you need now to consider as zakat period starts from that time. So you keep on adding 50. You keep on adding 50 or 100, whatever. You have kept adding. There are the profits which are paid. They add on your money. So you go on until 12 months. You look at the end balance on the 12th month and you pay zakat on that, regardless of the fact that there are some cash that has been coming here, okay, which might have not stayed for a year, which is quite true. But now the challenge, if you don't want to follow this approach, the task still is on you now to track for every contribution that you have made, okay, if it has stayed for a year. That will be now your challenge to handle. But for simplicity, and this is the views of Imam Abu Hanifa, you just look at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, okay? And for more simpler approach, you choose the end of year, that maybe my end of year is Ramadan. So every end of year, you look at your balance, every Ramadan, you look at your balances and you pay your zakat. Okay, but this is not advisable to everyone. Okay, this is not advisable for everyone. Okay, and there are specific groups that could be advised to follow this, but the best is for you to track when my money reached nisab, which date, which month, count from there, 12 months. Okay, that's how it should be. What is the other questions that follows? Right. Okay, then this one says, how do you apply the 2% on the full profit at the end of the year, considering that it has been accumulated? We said that zakat for for the funds that you have invested with us is not on the profit only. It is the principal plus the profit that you have received. Okay, so it's not on profit. Zakat is on the total, the value of your investment. And the value of your investment, okay, uh, includes what you had contributed plus the profit. And that is what you base on to calculate your zakat. If I started to invest with you 2K, then keep increasing, and when it reaches the year, I had 1 million now. How do I calculate? Okay, my simple answer is use the 1 million as the base to calculate. Okay, use 1 million as the base to calculate. So take 1 million times 2.5. That's the simplest way to fulfill this. Otherwise, you need to track. If you want to be more accurate, then you have to look at 200K. When did you started with this 200K? When was it? Which month? Which date? And then we need to look at the nisab, whether at that date, on that month, okay, this money had reached nisab. If the answer is yes, then mashallah, that's good. Okay, then we need to ask ourselves, how did it reach the million? Was it from profits or was it from your other money? Okay, and which other money? Okay, is it the money that you had it in a bank, just that now you invested it with us? Or it is fresh money, you had a consulting job that you were paid certain money and then you came to add. So it is very complicated. We can't really discuss this in its totality here, but my first answer was very simple. Okay, just take 1 million times 2.5. Lillahi alhamdu. Whatever you pay, if it is extra, it is good for you. What we fear and what we should fear is to pay less than what is due. Okay, because that means you haven't fulfilled your obligation. But paying more, you get more rewards. Okay, get more rewards. But if you want to also pay what is exactly, then we need to exactly examine your wealth. Okay, how much did you have at what time, and how was the nisab, and all this other that came in between? How did it came in between, and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay. Is zakat paid on everything you own altogether, or do you calculate as per different entities, meaning example deposit and other things? You have to add all these other things. Okay, what you have invested with us, plus what you have in your deposit in a bank, what you have in your wallet. Okay, you have to put together all this and see if it has reached nisab. If they haven't reached nisab and they haven't stayed for a year, then that is not zakatable. So remember, those are other conditions. Number one, we simply have to establish whether this money has reached nisab. Number two, we have to establish whether they have been in your possession for a year. Okay, irrespective of where they sit. So some sits with SIB, some money sits with M-Pesa, some money maybe sits in a bank, some money maybe sits with your sister, some money maybe is a loan you have given to somebody. We need to add all of this. Okay, this constitutes your wealth. Okay, and ask the question. Okay, have they reached nisab? Have they stayed for a year? And then do the zakat calculation. I have retired from my job and received my benefit. Am I required to pay zakat now, or should I wait until after a year passed? I said When you retired from your job, you have received your benefit. Which benefit? I hope it is the 1/3. Otherwise, you'll come back to explain to us. And I had explained about this 1/3. Normally in Kenya, when you retire, you get your 1/3. Okay? And I said, if you get your 1/3, you are supposed to pay zakat on that 1/3 you received immediately. You add 2.5 of what you have received on the 1/3 and pay zakat on it. Okay? You don't wait until a year have passed. That is the most correct Sharia scholars' position. Okay. If I have gold less worthy than the nisab, you need to pay zakat. Now, the nisab for gold is not this amount which you have mentioned. The nisab for gold is 85 grams. So if you have gold, like even ladies have golds, necklace of gold and so on. Okay, their zakat is based on 85 grams, okay, of gold, or it is equivalent. Okay, so don't mix up. Don't mix up the gold, okay, and the nisab for silver. Nisab for silver is 595, which is equivalent to what we had mentioned, 217,000 something. Okay, but this is applicable only for gold, for cash, okay, and also for silver itself, but you cannot confuse this with the gold. Gold, it is nisab, is 85 grams. It has to be 85 grams. That's when you pay zakat for it. So even if, so to answer you, if I have a gold less worthy than the nisab of that, to answer you, you don't pay zakat for gold worthy this much, because the value, the nisab for gold is 85 grams. And the current value for 85 grams is almost 1 million and something. Okay, is 1 million something. So even if you had a gold less worthy than 500K, still you don't pay zakat, because it hasn't reached, that clearly shows your gold is not 85 grams. Because if it is 85 grams, it will be worthy more than 500K. Okay, because the nisab for gold, my sister, is 85 grams or equivalent in Kenya shillings. So we don't follow the nisab for silver for gold. These are two different assets, and each has its own nisab. Does zakat also apply to clothes? No, it doesn't, unless if these are for trade. But for yourself, whatever you wear is not zakatable. Whatever you use for trade, you are a trader of clothes. If you are a trader of clothes, then it will be subjected to zakat if the value of these clothes, okay, have already reached the nisab of silver, which we have been talking about here. Okay, but if they are still, your business is very small, okay, it doesn't even reach that much, then you don't pay zakat. Can you pay zakat on installment, but within the same month? It has to be justified. Why should it be a portion this week and the remainder after a week? Why? If the answer is you don't have the adequate cash, or you are still looking for other people to give, then it can be justifiable, because sometimes, you're supposed to pay zakat, say 50K, but you don't have it. Okay, you only have 30K now in your possession. Okay, in your possession. Okay, and this is particularly for traders. But if it is you as an investor, okay, your money is there. Your money is maybe with us. Okay, why should you wait? You have to withdraw that amount that you're supposed to pay zakat and pay zakat on it. But assume that you have no cash and you have no access to cash that you can be able to pay zakat immediately. Then that is the ground for you to pay what you have. Okay. Also, another ground for maybe you not paying all of it is maybe you are still investigating. You want to give zakat to somebody that you are investigating and to know how much he deserves to be given and so on. Then, if that is the case, fine. But if you have already identified this is the person deserves to get 20,000, why are you giving him this portion this week and the other portion the other week and so on? Unless there are grounds. Okay. Of course, sometimes, sometimes there are some categories of people that will be paid even zakat weekly or monthly. Okay. But it has to be with their consent. It has to be with their consent because this is their money, but you fear they might not be able to manage it. If you give the whole zakat at a go, they may not manage it. So you consult with them, okay, that they allow you not out of your wish, not out of your strategy, but for their benefit, that they agree that please keep my zakat, give me weekly. If the poor person or the needy person himself has authorized you to give him weekly, okay, because he doesn't want to, squander it, okay, then that is justifiable. You have a consent from the owner, okay, from the person himself. But don't just decide on yourself to give this person weekly. It's not your money. It is his money, okay? So if it is the issue that you fear of squandering it, educate him, educate her. Sit down with her, tell her how to manage the money, how to manage his or her money. Okay? But don't overstep on someone else's money. It's not your money. Okay? Why are you dictating terms for money that's not yours? Okay? Educate how to manage this money and give him the responsibility or seek his permission. Okay? To give him monthly without any threats. Okay, don't go and tell him, if you don't accept this, next time I'll not be giving you zakat because you don't allow me to give you monthly. No threats. There should be no threats. If you threat or if you whatever, that is not acceptable. That's not permissible. Okay, so let him accept to get it weekly or monthly out of his own volition, his own will. No fear, no threat. Okay, that is. How do I calculate my zakatable wealth if my investment fluctuates above the nisab? We can still discuss this offline. There's a lot of things that might need to be discussed here. Okay, how do I calculate my zakat if my investment fluctuates above the nisab? Okay, I've answered at some point this question to say that you just don't have to consider a lot of fluctuations. We have a scholarly opinion in Hanafi madhab, which is a madhab of Ahl Sunnah, that you simply look at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. The fluctuation here doesn't matter. And the baseline that you use is at the end of the year. So if at the beginning of the year you had 500K, at the end of the year, you had 250K. As long as at the beginning and at the end of the year, they are still at nisab level, you will pay based on the base at the end of the year, which is 250K. Okay. But if at the end of the year, they changed it to 2 million, you use the 2 million K. Ignore the ups and downs here. This is a very simple solution, the simple way to go. Otherwise, if you want to take account of each money, when it has reached nisab and so on, then that is also an acceptable way. But now it is a task on you. Remember, if you do any errors in that line, in that approach, that leads to you paying less, you will be asked by Allah why you paid less. But if you paid more, there will be more rewards for it. So that's the simple that's the answer I can say to that. Is one obliged to pay zakat? Oh, have to again press back this question. Who is this? Okay, it is Mariam. If is one obligated to pay zakat of what he has lent to someone and expect it back, and the payback is installments. Yeah, whatever you have loaned and expect to get paid, you include it in your other zakatable wealth. So, for example, if I have a million, and I have lent some money to my friend, which is also maybe a million, which I expect him or her to pay me in installment. Okay, you just add it together. That is means your wealth is 2 million because you have million in your possession, and you have loaned. You have a debt that is recoverable from a friend, a relative, whatever, of 1 million. Okay, add them together. That is 2 million. Pay zakat on this. Okay. And then whenever he will be paying you, you're good. You have already paid zakat for it. Okay, so that's the best way. But if the only money you have is what you have lent, and it of course, if it has reached nisab, you pay zakat for it, even if you don't possess it, as long as it is recoverable, you expect it to be received, to be paid back. But if it was below nisab, you have lent somebody 100K, and yourself, you don't have any other wealth that is zakatable. Since it is 100K, is below nisab, you don't pay zakat. Okay. So the answer is you are obligated to pay zakat on the debt that is recoverable, that you expect to get it back. You add it together with your other assets and pay zakat for it. What if the profit from the fund is used? Now, if you have used whatever profit, okay, before the the 12 month has completed, then that is not is you have used. That means it didn't stay for a year. So, for example, you had 1 million, you received the profit here in between. For example, in January you had 1 million, you received the profit here. But whenever you receive those profit, you have been using it. You take it, you pay salary, you pay this, you pay that. That means at the end of the year, okay, you will not have these actual profits because you had already used them. So if you had used those profits before the year lapses, then they are not zakat. But if you have used them after after the lapse of the year, then they are zakat. They are added together with what you had. What if I have funds in different banks individually below the nisab, but combined above nisab? You combine them. You combine them. These are all your money. You are the same individuals. These different entities doesn't separate you from those money. They're your money. So you combine all of them, and if they're above nisab, you pay zakat. If my working bank balance is above nisab, do I make zakat on the balance? Now, this is a bit, you are bringing a bit technical banking terms here, working balance. Uh, in banks, sometimes they have, they show you what is available balance and other balance. Okay. We really need I don't know what you mean here by working balance, frankly. So you can explain what is working bank balance. Okay. Is it sometimes you have your balance and you had a check that was paid to you but is not yet has not yet been paid by the by the other bank. It waits clearing and so on. Okay. And when you look at your statement, like your balance, it will tell you available balance is this one, and maybe I don't know what other balance is this one. So we need to be clear here. What does the working balance means in this context for you? I don't want to just answer if it is not clear. Should all zakatable items be considered separately or their values be combined and zakat paid on the total? Now, zakatable items are quite different in nature. Okay, there are those that are combined together, like cash, like articles of trade, okay, investment in a fund like ours, okay, all these are added together. But if you have goats, if you have cows, if you have camels, if you're also a farmer, we can't add all this together. Each goat, they have to reach their own nisab. Camels, they have to reach their own nisab. Cows, they have their own nisab. So we have to be very careful here. The cuttable items are different in nature. There are those that are combined, and there are those that are separately considered. Separately considered. So if we talk about cash here, if you talk about cash, you have cash in this bank, you have cash in Mansa X Shariah fund, you have cash maybe in other fund. Yes, these okay can be you have cash in your business, you have stock in your business. Yes, these all can be combined, okay, and you pay zakat on the total. But apart from that, you can't combine uh, 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 zakatable items like cash and trade goods plus the goats. Okay, unless if these goats are for trade, because nisab, the issue of livestock, there is somebody who keeps livestock for trade, okay, and the other is a livestock keeper, and of course is trading, okay, but is a bit different. There could be even some times where he doesn't sell them. He keeps them until he wants them to, breed and grow and so on. So we might need to look what is the intention of this person. But even if you don't intend to trade, if they have reached the nisab of goats or cows or camels, you pay zakat for them. But there are those who might still hold fewer cows or fewer goats and obligated to pay zakat because their intention is to trade. They're not there to breed them. I go buy cows, okay, 15, bring here, sell them. Okay, this is a trade good. This is the stock. So it is zakat. We will not wait until these cows reach 30. Okay, but that's the nisab for cows. When they have reached 30, you start paying zakat for them. If you are doing a business of goats, okay, the nisab is 40. But for you as a trader, you buy, this is Ramadan is about to end. You went and bought your 30 goats. Okay, this is tradable goods. These are goods for trade. So we determine their value, and we'll have to combine with your other wealth, and you pay zakat on it. We don't wait until those goats reach 40 and so on. If I have a rental income of 50K a month, do I pay zakat? I don't save, but use the money and it doesn't reach the nisab. Then you don't pay zakat. You don't pay zakat. If whatever rental income that you receive, number one, you use it, all of it, that it doesn't even reach the nisab or doesn't even stay for a year, then there's no zakat for it. Zakat. What if the debt like a car payment? What if we have a debt like car payments? Can you use the debt from the nisab? Now, debt is deductible However, you have to, what is deductible on a debt is only principal amount. Okay, if you have this, if it is coming from an interest-bearing loan. Okay, but if it is a halal, if it is a murabaha car financing, the whole you deduct what is due, principal plus profit that is due in the next 12 months only. Because as you know, you might have a debt for a car that you are paying it for 5 years. You cannot deduct the whole amount. Okay, you only deduct what is due to you in the next 12 months. That is what is deducted. And this is for case like murabaha, you deduct a profit plus principal that you will be required to pay in the next 12 months. And then when the other year comes, you do the same. Okay, but you don't deduct the whole debt. This car is, 10 million car. I don't know. Okay, 10 million car. If you did a debt of 10 million for car, if you deduct the whole and you are paying it 5 years, okay, you have to amortize it. Okay, only take what is due for 12 months, you deduct. The other you will deduct when this in subsequent years. Okay, and that's how you should approach it. And if it is, may God forbid, if it was an interest-bearing debt, okay, you are not deducting interest. You only deduct principal. Why? Because you have been prohibited to pay interest. So Sharia doesn't recognize any interest as a debt. Interest is not recognized as a debt. Okay, just like a child outside of the wedlock is not recognized as your child. So interest you pay or interest that is owed to you is not considered as a debt from Sharia point of view. So interest doesn't reduce your zakatable wealth. Is it possible to give statement on how much to pay for zakat as some of us invest in bits? I had answered this before that the statement you should use for your zakat is what you had received, I think, January, because there will be no changes, frankly speaking, because normally the change will come to it once we declare profit by end of Q1. Okay, but in case you don't know, you have just invested in January, started your journey with us in January or February. Okay, just use your contribution. Use what you have contributed. Use what you have contributed to be to be the cash that you have with us. Okay, because we are yet to calculate profit for this quarter until the quarter ends. Okay, so that's what I can advise you. So if you have started this investment journey with us, January or February, okay, we haven't yet issued statement or whatever statement that we will issue, if at all we will give you, it will simply show what you have invested with us, okay, which you already know, I believe, you already know what you had invested. So there is no point of getting that statement. But if you still want it, get in touch with your FA. He will show you your statement, which will simply be showing what you have contributed to date. The profit will not be reflected as yet because it's not yet paid until the end of the quarter. What if one has a loan and still eligible to pay zakat on savings? Yeah. Yeah, if you have a loan, you are still supposed to pay zakat if your net zakatable wealth exceeds nisab. So if you have a saving that has reached nisab, even if you have a loan that you're also paying, it doesn't excuses you from paying zakat if your saving has reached nisab. Okay. Except that you can maybe deduct the debt that is due in the next 12 months, and if your savings still has a balance above nisab, you pay zakat for it. Remember to include the shares. You are talking of a SACCOS here. So if you are a SACCO member, that means you have some shares and you have your savings. All these have to be put together. Okay, the value of your shares plus the savings. Okay, and then if you have a loan, okay, you need to deduct what is due in the next 12 months. Okay, if the balance is still above nisab, okay, then you will have to pay zakat. So there's not an excuse that being in a debt to pay not to pay zakat. We have to look at the net wealth, net zakatable wealth. Okay, that if we take all of what you own, and if we deduct what is supposed to be paid by you in the next 12 months, if we still have a balance that is above nisab, you are supposed to pay zakat. But if it is negative, it is less than nisab, then you will not pay zakat in that case. Well, I always pay zakat on Dhul Hijjah of every year. I see most people calculate during end of Ramadan, and am I in order? Yeah, you could be in order. It doesn't have zakat to be paid in Ramadan because everyone, his wealth reaches nisab differently. So if yours had reached nisab, okay, in a month other than other than uh, other than other than Ramadan, then no problem at all. Actually, it is a misconception people to think that you pay zakat on Ramadan. And in this case, there could be people who do either a sin of delaying, because it could be that they are supposed to pay zakat uh, prior to Ramadan, and that they are delaying to pay till Ramadan. They are sinful for delaying. That is not an excuse in Sharia to wait for Ramadan to pay. But there could be others who pay in advance. Those who pay in advance because of the fadla of Ramadan, that is okay. That's okay. You advance your zakat because Ramadan, as you know, has many fadila, has many rewards. Whatever good deed you do in Ramadan is paid a multiple fold. But for those who are advancing, is okay. There's no problem for you to advance your zakat. But if you are delaying just because you want to pay it on Ramadan, that is sinful. So my sister or my brother, you're okay. You're okay if you have calculated that your zakat year, your zakat period is Dhul Hijjah. Go on, pay, no problem at all. Can give my zakat to multiple needy people in a shared proportions. I don't understand what you mean here. Okay, zakat is given to needy people based on their needs, not on a shared proportions, as what you say. Like, for example, uh, you have 1 million to give zakat, and you have two people, needy people. You give them 100K each. It's not paid that way, zakat, dear brothers and sisters, that you give it shared proportions. Zakat is paid to a needy person based on the need to satisfy their needs, which are according to some scholars. Okay, you have to fulfill their needs for a year. Okay, have to fulfill their basic needs for a year. So if this person, needy person, mashallah, he has a salary, okay, and he only have a shortfall of certain amount, okay, monthly, then you give zakat to fill that gap, okay, for a year. So it doesn't have to be shared proportion. Everybody has different needs. Could be a needy person, mashallah, he has his whatever he gets in terms of his salary and maybe his business. are unable to cover him, but he have a debt. He has a debt somewhere. Okay, you can simply pay the debt for that person. Okay, which could be very lower or very higher. Okay, depending on the nature of that debt. Of course, that debt should not be of haram debt or something like that. So his zakat is not given to multiple needy in a shared proportion. Like, you give everybody 1,000, 1,000 or 2,000, 2,000. That is not even acceptable. Zakat to be distributed 10,000, 10,000, equally. Everybody you put on the envelope 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. No, that's not how zakat is supposed to be given. Zakat is not given in that way. You have to assess the needs of the needy or the poor and give based on that need. Someone maybe he only needs something, as I explained, to fill the gap that he has. I have this money, but I fall short. Okay, I eat once in a day. Okay, which when he has to eat at least twice in a day. Okay, so you fill that gap. So you calculate that gap is how much you give him zakat for a year to fill that gap. But there are those who maybe, I just need capital. My need is, I need capital to start business. So he will be given what he needs to start that particular business. So it's not about proportions here. It's not about shared proportion at all. Every needy person has his own needs, and those needs has to be fulfilled to the level best. So that is the answer here. If I received my lump sum pension in December, am I liable to pay zakat? Yes, actually you have delayed. You have delayed. You are supposed to pay your zakat upon receiving that lump sum. Okay, so you are liable to pay. You're liable to pay. If at all, yeah, if, definitely it has reached the nisab, I believe. Okay, but if whatever you received in a lump sum is still below the amount you have mentioned here, okay, 217K, I believe is above that. So if it is above the nisab, you pay zakat. If you haven't paid up to now, you have to pay it now. Okay, and seek Allah to forgive you. Maybe you didn't know. Okay, so that's the position. What if someone has a liability? Do we net this with the zakatable wealth? I think I've explained that. Okay, yeah, we net it, but we have to be very careful. What kind of a loan is that? Is it an Islamic Sharia compliant loan without interest, or it is with interest? And I've explained this. I will not prefer to go back because actually our time is up. So our time is up, ladies and gentlemen. I see there is a lot of other question. How much is the nisab in Kenyan currency? We have said that according to our Sharia board, the nisab is the value of silver, 595 gram of silver in equivalence. I'm giving you this as a base because if I give you the Kenya shilling amount, I will be misleading because it changes the base. You should know that the nisab for Kenyan currency is 595 grams of silver. So now go to the website. Okay, go to the website, look for the price of silver per gram. Okay, per gram, and you will find different websites. They will give you different prices. Okay, now look at one of those websites that you can rely upon for a source that looks to be credible. Okay, and then times 595 grams times 595. Okay, so if you check, you might see it is maybe 300, maybe 400. It keeps on changing, and that's why I'm not ready to throw you an amount here. Okay, because we base it from silver according to our to the position of our Sharia scholars here. But other scholars will say you base it on the nisab of gold, which is 85 grams. Okay, they are all correct opinion, but I'm here talking on for SIB on behalf of Sharia Supervisory Board. So I'm explaining the Sharia Board positions, not of these other scholars. But so that's it. Yeah, I'd mentioned that as just an example. Someone is answering the other. That one is based on what we had calculated here for Ramadan. It is what you have mentioned, but it changes. I believe by the time you receive the email to this today, if we go and look at the gram, the price of gram of silver, it would have changed. I'm sure of that because these metals prices keeps changing every day. Okay, keeps changing every day. So you just have to on that particular day of you paying zakat, go check the value of that metal on that particular day and apply it. What is the amount considered to be within nisab? We have answered this. What is the amount considered within nisab? Okay, this has been okay. Yeah, beloved participants, I see there are a lot of questions. Our time is up. So back to Simeon. I think it is already one. Yeah, it is already at one. I think I'll have to stop here, but you can keep on asking or sending your questions to your respective FA, or you can visit us, and we'll be glad to respond to. My final remarks is that you need to track your investment balance so that you can start to track the Islamic calendar date for your zakat calculation. This is one point that I want to put across to our esteemed investors. If you have other zakatable assets, you should assess them and include in your calculations. You should not just pay zakat based on what you have invested with us and forget about your bank balances, your wallet balances, your businesses, and so on. Please don't pay zakat just on this amount you have with us. You have to consider those other assets that belongs to you, which those which needs to be combined, you combined, and those which are paid separately, you pay separately. Finally, for assistance, reach out to us. We are at Jaquad Towers, second floor. Okay, you can reach to us, or you can call us through these numbers, and we can take it from there. Up to here, thank you so much, all of you, for making time to join this session. I hope it has been beneficial, and I look forward for you to fulfill your zakat obligation accurately, and may Allah bless your wealth and bless you all. Thank you. Simeon, to you.
Thank you very much, Khalfan. That was very insightful. We learned a lot. I really appreciate. So probably, if we could have these sessions as much as possible, there are some sessions that you said you might give us part two. Most of the clients who are here, they have texted and requested for similar part two, part three, part four. So I believe we will always organize such, and we shall always reach to our investors and give them the time to join again. So thank you very much, and I wish you the very best in all your endeavors. Thank you.